Hey guys, it's Owen from V3 Racing, and this week V3 Racing will be doing setups, not lap tutorials for the VRS Sprint Series in the Lamborghini, Ferrari and McLaren. This video, as you can see, is for the Lamborghini, so let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so here's the lap now, coming on into turn 1. So for the braking marker here, we're using roughly between 150, so about 75 metres, as you can see there. Braking up to about a peak pressure of, I'd say about 60%, 50%, just enough to slow the car down, trim a bit of speed off, whilst also trying to get the front of the car into grip. And that's why I'm carrying just a bit of brake just before the apex. And again with this curb, you're really not wanting to use this orange part here, the sausage part of the curb here. You can see here, I just miss it, just using this part here. If you touch this, it really tends to unsettle the front end of the car. The front end will then bounce around a bit and it will really wash you out wide on the exit. So I'm quite aggressive with the throttle application here, maybe a bit too aggressive because as you can see here I almost get the off track. Normally you don't want the centre of your car to really go across past this part of the curve, which is where I thought the off track centre part is, but maybe it might have been where I went off and came back on, maybe because I came back on before the end of the curve, I didn't get the off track, I don't know. But normally you don't be running much wider than this here. Then we've got a run on down into turn 2 and into here. I'm braking just before this sort of road here, this sort of tarmac bit, up to about 50, 60, 70%. Just getting into the part where the ABS starts to flash, because you don't want to be in the ABS too much. Into second gear, curve it in, and again, you try not to touch this curb on the inside. I'm just kissing it. Any more than this, and again like the curb at turn 1 on the inside, you'll have the car bouncing and struggling to turn in. And this corner is all about trying to get the best of both worlds. You can carry a lot of momentum through this corner, but then you'll struggle for a good exit because you'll be late on the power. Or you can have my line here, which is going a bit slower into the corner, but getting nice and early on the throttle, really aggressive, trying to carry the speed all the way down the straight. And down the parabolica here, the long left, try and keep it tucked up to the left here. You have to be on the curb, but you know, really hugging it. It's free time. Then coming down to the hairpin, I'd say probably one of the trickiest parts of the track to really squeeze the lap time out of, which I really struggled to as well during the session when I was lapping here. I'm braking just before the curb, sort of between the 150 and the curb itself. About peak brake pressure as much as I can into second gear, then first, right as I kick it round, and I'm trying to hug the apex, be patient with the throttle, and as soon as I can open the steering rack up, you can see as soon as I'm able to rack it up, I'm on the throttle. And with this sausage curb here, you can use it, and you can also, if you go just around it as it starts, you can also have one wheel just on the left hand side of it, and you also won't get an off track for that either. Then on the run down to the kink here, you kind of want to turn in not straight away, but you know, delay the turn in just slightly. This way you can get the car over to this side of the track, ready for the braking zone here, to the Mercedes-Benz Arena section. And here I'm braking. I don't really have a rough point here. I'm braking just before the end of the curb here, so you could say, you know, when the when these sort of curbs start to go out of view, the blue ones. So we're braking quite aggressively into here, and again, just like turn 2, it's really a matter of do you prioritise the momentum or do you prioritise your exit. Here I think the exit is far important. So I'm quite aggressive on the brakes, and I brake, I say a bit earlier than what you can, and I'm already trying to straighten the car up, and I'm already very aggressive on the throttle here, straight out of the exit. And a lot of people might be running a bit further wide than this, but I'm trying to get it on the power, car as straight as I can. This way I'm already on the left for this right hand, which is also very tricky. On the way in, I shift up to third and I lift off the throttle quite aggressively, and that's to make sure I'm not washing out towards the end of the curve. I want any understeer, I want to completely get rid of. I want to make sure I'm hitting the apex and get really aggressively on the throttle. And this curve is very deceiving because of this sort of sloped part at the end. And this, I'm not sure about the other cars, but the Lamborghini, if you hook your inside wheel over this inside part of the curb, the car will bounce very, very hard at the front, and it will be almost impossible to control the oversteer once the car hops back onto the track. Anyway, once I've hit that apex, I know there, look, I'm safe, I'm fully on the throttle, putting it all the way out wide. You can ramp up this curb, but you don't want to go over it, because then you risk the car bottoming out, and then you can pull a Perez and go straight into the wall on the right hand side. And you can use a bit of the green stuff here, the concrete, but this little grey circle here, as long as you're back off of it before you hit that, you shouldn't get an off track. And I think this is another very tricky corner, is there is absolutely no point for a braking marker. This corner is very based on feel, how good your exit was at the corner prior, and generally about how brave you're feeling for this corner. So, just in case you're wondering, I start braking about here, if you can sort of find a braking marker to make for yourselves, because I don't really have one. I'm braking just up to 60 and straight back down, just using that brake to trail me through. And I'm only using the traditional part of the curb, you know, just the curb face, not the concrete at top. I feel that if you use a bit too much of this, you can get a bit, you know, cocky, thinking you took a lot of the curb, you get on the throttle really early, and then you run really far out wide. Either that or it could be quite low grip out there, but this is just my line that I take through here. I think it allows me to be a bit more tidy. So I'm aggressively on the throttle once I'm up to the apex, trusting in the car, running it all the way out, and this is seriously on the limit now. At the left-hand side, you can see I'm on basically the stones that are on the concrete runoff. Any more than that, and you're risking having a big spin because you've dipped a wheel in the gravel, which IRACING is very well known for. And then into the hairpin, where Vettel famously had a bit of an incident. I'm braking just before the curb. You can probably be a bit more aggressive, but I like to have the car very controlled into the hairpin, and I like to really dictate when I can get onto the throttle, and you know, I can focus on getting on the power rather than struggling to slow the car down. So up to probably the peak brake pressure you can probably get out of this car, you know, about 80%. And I'm trailing in, like I said, I'm really just at this point balancing the car as much as I can here. You want to try and stay off this inside curve as best you can. Just like this, you can just start, you know, getting on that white painted line, but you don't want to be any closer than that, especially when you're getting back on the throttle, because it can really cause the wheels to sort of lift off the ground and the weight to be unevenly distributed across the car, and that can really cause issues with stability out of the exit here. So I'm being quite aggressive on the throttle, and I can do this whilst having a lot of steering input on because of the banked sense of this oval and how it, you know, it lets you carry momentum through. Wind it off very, very quickly though, as you can see the TC starts to kick in. That's because as the track starts to level out again and the banked part starts to end, the rear end really starts to lose its grip. So a bit of a correction there. Using just a bit of this runoff here. You can use all of it, but I only ever really use all of it if I'm having to, you know, save an oversteering moment. But into here, use all of the inside part here. However, it's very important that when you come out, you really want your left wheel to be over here, because if you start running over these parts of the curves again, like I said at the corner before you enter the arena section, it can really cause the car to bounce around unnaturally. So you even see it does a tiny bit there. But into here, trying to run a bit wide, not too far wide, as with the Lambo you can have a lot of oversteery issues here and really struggle to slow the car down the wider you go through this section here. So brake at 50% max, straight back down to just try and trail it through. Once I've got the apex here, I'm slowly back on the throttle because there's a lot of understeer at this point of the lap. Run it all the way out here, no more than this because you really don't want to be eating this sausage curb on exit. You know, I'm slowly going over it, positioning my right hand rear wheel just over the side of it. And then after that, I'm off the throttle, 50%. You know, I'm just sort of trying to work with the car, try and get the car stable as I can on the way in, because you can see here I have a bit of a twitch. It's all about just trying to get off the throttle as much as you can to get that bite, so you can, you know, get up to the curb here and, you know, be aggressive on the exit, but you also want to carry momentum. So it's all about a bit of both. You need to sort of find what works best for you. If, you know, you'd rather get off the throttle really aggressively than get back on it really aggressively. If you want to kind of balance, you know, 70-20% throttle through the corner and try and carry the momentum as best you can. And with this curb, again, like some of the other curbs, if you go on the inside of it, this drop-off point will be really aggressive and the car will bounce around. It's not as bad as the other points of the track if you're expecting it, but if you're not expecting it, it can really, really hurt your exit. Again, once I'm sort of past the apex of the corner, I roll on the throttle. I'm a bit hesitant here because I'm thinking I might run a bit wide. So I open up the lock as soon as I think I'm good, and it wasn't that bad. So yeah, you can be this aggressive on the throttle on exit. Use all of the runoff here, all of it. There's no need to, no reason, sorry, to not use all of it. It's all plenty safe, plenty of grip out there. Yep, and that's a lap at Hockenheim.